Hello, this is the Cirrus webinar. We're looking today at creating a winning warehouse strategy. Welcome to all of our attendees. Let me introduce myself. My name's Simon Shaw. I'm Managing Director of Cirrus Logistics. Cirrus is a specialist in supply chain design and optimization. We've got a lot of global customers in a lot of different verticals that we've been serving over 20 years, and we want to share some of that knowledge with you today. Before we start, this is very much an interactive session. We will be running some polls, and we will also be encouraging you to ask some questions so that we can pick these up and answer them at certain points through the session. Looking to run for about 30 minutes. So before we actually start, could everybody just click on their question button so that we can just see, maybe just type a few characters in there just so that we can see everybody's got access to that, and that's working. Okay, that seems to be fine. Very good. Okay, good. Let's run then. So good. So let me just minimize my. Right. Good. Okay, so let's have a look at the agenda. So fundamentally, what we want to be doing today is really following a case study around the Corner Stores Limited. But before we get into that, I'd like to talk a little bit about strategy. How do you go about formulating strategy within a business? And then we're going to have a little look at how computer simulation can start to enable that whole verification of your strategic direction. Sorry, I'm not doing that very well, am I? Maybe I can just start that again. So we're going to have a look at primarily focusing in on the Corner Stores case study. We're going to be having a look at strategy and the framework associated with that, particularly around how we can validate that and manipulate the different aspects of that strategy using computer simulation. Going to be opportunity to ask some questions at the end, and we'll be running some polls through this. So please, when you see these polls come up, please respond to them. Thank you. Okay, so we think that it's incredibly important that you get your warehousing strategy right, and there has been occasions when some real headlines have been hitting the news where companies have been suffering multi-million-pound losses in their business, their share price tumbling. So I think it's undisputed the fact that the warehouse plays a very key role in today's businesses, and hopefully at the end of this seminar we'll understand a little bit more about how we can de-risk and prevent some of these things happening. So we can see here we've got the Corner Stores Limited board. The managing director has just stood up there and announced that the targets for next year are to grow the business by 10%. And you can see the colleagues around that table are all contemplating exactly what will that do in terms of their particular parts of the business. So, can the DC handle it? What spare capacity is there in terms of transport? Maybe they're looking to run a multi-channel fulfillment. What impact's that going to have now? All of these questions are things which we need to be answering. And for our first poll, we'd really like to ask the question of the audience in terms of if you were sat around that table now, how exactly would you respond to that? Okay, so as we said, warehousing is only one aspect. You obviously need to consider very much very many other things. For example, where do you physically locate your warehouse? Have you got sufficient transport? Maybe what peaks there are in supply. We talked about 10%. Is that going to come gradually? Is that going to come all at one go? So there's various different things which, as a business, you need to consider. But we are going to focus today just on the warehouse. However, we do have a whole program of webinars that we're going to be running, supported by white papers, and you can see on your screens now some of those that will be coming up shortly. You're going to have access to that via Cirrus Logistics, so please keep a watch on our website and register those if those are of interest to you. So strategy then. I think fundamentally it's very important that we can create a framework for our decision making. We need to be able to look at and consider various different aspects of things. The data itself, however, is not just enough. We need to be able to manipulate that data, enable us to compare different outcomes. We need to be able to investigate different scenarios, and we need to look to see what impact that will have back down in terms of maybe storage capacity, staffing, various different changes, perhaps impacts to our customer service levels. So this framework needs to work across the business and ultimately be validated and de-risked. We need, importantly, it's important that really we're looking here to de-risk it and remove any gut feel and subjectivity and have a very objective structure to our decision making. This diagram maybe looks a little bit complicated at first glance, but ultimately what we're trying to depict here is that it's all very well and good talking at a very high level, but we need to start to drill down from that high level 10% demand, and we need to consider that at various different levels within the organization. So maybe starting out by the business offering and contracting to certain different customer service levels, maybe then considering what capacity, what stock holding it's going to be, what are the staffing and equipment costs that we really want to be maintaining as our operational costs within that, what real estate are we going to be using, and then really coming right down to operationally to understand what impact that will have on our inbound and outbound processes and replenishment, etc., and any other sort of further work that you're doing. So it's very important that we review our strategy at these three levels. Cirrus, we strongly believe that the way to actually control and the perfect framework for these decisions is computer simulation. I don't know how many of you have actually come across computer simulation. It is increasingly being adopted by businesses, and what it enables you to do is provide a means of actually doing some analytics, and we'll have a look at that in a moment. It enables you to start to drive and ask those sort of what-if questions. It enables you to go down to very much a process level and understand whether you've got any conflictions within your operation, and then it enables you to present back to the business in maybe graphical form or even in visual form, in terms of either 3D visualization of the issues or a movie, in order to put across the benefits of that strategy that you're defining. See here we've got a 2D layout. We've also got down at the bottom here, if I can just click play, I don't know whether that's going to come across very well across the webinar, but we can start to see that suddenly a warehouse can be represented very accurately, and we can start to see how that will really play out as we start to change and influence the workload that is put upon it. Okay, so let's come back to our challenge and our case study of the 10%. So let's just consider how we can actually go about solving that problem. So put this into some sort of context. Corner Stores has got two warehouses, Warehouse 1 and Warehouse 2. Warehouse 1 is really acting as a national distribution center for them. So it's got full pallets coming in, full pallets going out, replenishing Warehouse 2, and then there are a whole series of stores which Warehouse 1 is servicing. So that's the example that we're going to be following now. In terms of how it's set up, we can see we've got 172,000 square feet. We've got some V&A racking, some wide aisle racking. We've got some designated marshalling areas for inbound and outbound movements. The operation's currently employing 200 vehicles for both inbound and outbound shipments. We've got 52 staff running across 3 shifts, and we can see that each of those shifts have been allocated certain operations, certain tasks which they need to be doing between in their allocated times, and finally a night shift where we've got the vehicles being loaded. So let's have a look at the data that we've got, and let's just try and build up some sort of decision-making framework then. So the analysis that has already been done, of course, has been commercial analysis, and that's pointed to the fact that the business believes it can gain 10% growth in its sales. We don't have any options. It's 10% is what we want to be doing. In terms of its objectives, I think we can say, it's quite safely say that at the moment it's not going to be looking to change very much, and it's very much a key of whether the business can absorb it. So at the moment the business is doing 6,000 units per week, and we're looking to move that up to 6,600 and maintain at the same time the existing contracted service levels. Tactically, we've decided that yes, we want to use the same real estate. We're not looking to relocate any premises. We'd like to make use of the same vehicle fleet, and of course we want to operationally be using the same staff and maintain our cost base. So we need now to look to see, well, what are the other factors which we need to now consider, and we'll consider those using our computer simulation, and for that I'll be using the class package from Cirrus. So before we go into the application, we need to look to see what base data we need to be feeding into that in order to accurately describe the business. And we can see here some of the things which we need to be inputting. We won't be doing that on this webinar, but these are the sort of things which we need to be picking up. And you can see that if you just scan down some of those things, this is all information that will be available within the operation, going across goods inwards, picking, yard. We're not going to model the yard in this instance, but quite clearly some of the congestion or problem to cope with that 10% actually may be not within the 4 walls of the warehouse, it may be outside. We can look at different storage locations, so maybe we want to consider some different, maybe we run out of storage, maybe we need to add some different types of racking, etc. We might need to tweak the resources, and look at the goods out loading, see what sort of delivery and shipment profiles we need to be running. And to support that base data, we also need to describe how that's going to be flowing through the business. So looking at the inbound process flows, we can see there some of the ones which are ticked, which is what we're going to be configuring for this particular model. And then likewise we need to be considering the outbound process. Again, we were looking at different ways to build that order, different types of picking. So we've got layer picking, single picks, we've got full pallet picks, got some cage picks going on. We've got some stores going out, so we've got some sort of store-friendly deliveries that we're going to be building there, marshalling that out, and then loading those onto the vehicle. We've got no yard management activities that we're going to be pursuing as part of this case study. Okay, so let's now let me flick into class. So this is the class application, and we're looking now at a 3D image of the warehouse that you saw earlier. If I flick back into 2D, that starts to show you the sort of the layout. So I'd like to perhaps start by explaining some of the features that we have that we're looking at here. Let me just perhaps turn off some of that so we can look at the layout in its first instance. So we can see that we've got two different types of racking, V&A racking and wide aisle racking. To actually draw this, a scale drawing of the warehouse in the first instance is very simple. We can either import a CAD profile so that we can actually draw on top of that CAD image, or you could have some sort of scale drawing, or indeed you could just draw it from scratch really. So we can see that there's a little bit of space to the left of the V&A racking. So if I now just show you, let's just try and add some more racking there. We can see that we've got some static racking. We've got choices of the type of racking that we're putting in there. You can see that it automatically sized with aisles and bays in terms of the as we sort of size it, it's automatically setting that up itself. And then we can have a look at the number of bays that we want to be setting up, changing that to 2 deep, and we can see that that automatically configures itself across the profile. Having a look at the aisles, again, if we were to change those to vertical configuration, we can see that everything sort of jumped through there. So quite easy to actually set that up. Not really proposing that we spend a lot of time setting up here. I'm really looking to test out the 10% strategy. So let's delete that and start to go back and look at the simulation. So maybe quite a lot of information to take on board here, but let me just talk you through some of the key things here. So we've got here are the different labor shifts which we've set up. So we've got a morning inbound, morning V&A, morning wide aisle, and some afternoon shifts. We've also got a night loading shift set up down here. And then we can see that we've got, if I just move down a little bit, in terms of goods inwards, we've got goods inwards coming into the business through these allocated goods inwards bays, and we've got an outbound coming out here. Just see that there are various lines here showing how the products are moving through the goods in bays through to the V&A racking, wide aisle racking, and out, etc. And we can set up replenishments and various other different routing information. So let's first of all run the simulation and have a look at the warehouse as it is set up today. So let me start that. Okay, now you can start to see hopefully the webinar supporting the fact that you're seeing some little dots which are little trucks running around, and we can see some vehicles coming in and those are starting to sort of cycle through their day. If we look down in the bottom right hand corner, we can start to see how time is moving through. So we're on day 2, week 1, day 3, and this is all moving obviously quite quickly through the working week. Now what I'm going to do now is just to, if I hide the simulation so that it doesn't present it back to the screen, enables us to run through that a lot quicker. So let's just check out our KPIs now. So this is a whole series of different metrics which are being run on this warehouse that we've just configured. Inbound, we can see we've got 200 vehicles, a little bit of lateness, but we can see that's just a minute or 2 minutes at the worst in terms of inbound deliveries. I don't think we're going to be worrying about that. It all looks pretty good to me. Outbounds, well, we have got a little bit of lateness here. 6% of the vehicles are leaving late as the business is currently running. 32% worst case. We just drill down into that. We can see that that is actually restricted to our V&A out. Now V&A is that's running our full pallets, and that's sort of showing a 17 to 32 minute delay. Now the business is probably not too worried about that because that's actually replenishing our warehouse too. The wide aisle picking, which is going down to store, that looks to be running perfectly on time. So I think the business is quite satisfied with that. In terms of our labour, we can start to see how the labour is being utilised through the day. We can see we've got red here around the morning V&A, so that's running quite a high percentage utilization, 99.6%. So that may cause us a little bit of problems later on. Got some MHE usage down here. Ooh, quite high VNA usage, MHE usage, should I say? So we'll have to see how that responds. Okay, so that's the sort of state of play of business as it is. We can now go in and use our what if wizard, and I've set this up to show a 10% increase. So we can now run 10% additional loading. I've kept the animation off, so you can just see in the bottom right it's quickly running through now. Finished. Click back on our KPIs. 10% loading, so we're looking to see 220, yeah, so 220 vehicles coming through. Outbounds, now we've got 10% left late, and we can see the worst case is actually by 1,245 minutes. So we've obviously got a break point here within the business. VNA, that seems to be our culprit. We knew that it was stretched last time, and that certainly seems to be the case. If we have a look down at our labour utilisation, well, it's still the morning VNA which is suffering. Everything else seems to be operating within range. Let's have a look at the MHE. Well, MHE again stretched, quite a lot of things running at maximum. So we might need to give some consideration to maybe some further investment in that area. We can look down here to see whether any CAT tasks have been unfinished, and we can see that in fact the business has processed all of that extra 10% that was needed. We look down at storage areas, we can also see that it's starting to impact, and we've got some wide aisle picking waiting time here. So that over the course of that week, we have seen some congestion that is being built up. So we need to really take some action here. So if we come back to looking at the labour, we can see the morning VNA seems to be the point where we've got some breakage. So let's come and have a look at our morning VNA shift. So morning VNA. Actually though, I'm saying that, but I'm just realizing that, let's have a look back at our outbound. In fact, the problem's really occurring here. Can we see this? This is actually occurring on the outbound. Now, 2,500 hours isn't something that you've got on your watch or mind, but for the purposes of computer simulation, we're really tying this back to the previous day. So we're saying that we're not tripping into the next day. So this is keeping everything based on a day. So that's why that's showing. But we can see the evening night shift is where the problem is. We know it's associated with the VNA. So let's actually, maybe counterintuitive this, but let's increase the VNA on the afternoon. So let's have a look at our teams. Wrong one. No, that's it. Sorry, I can't. My eyesight's going here. Let me have a look. Here we go. 3 people, not very many people. Let me edit that. Let's just put one other person in. 4. Okay. Good. And now let's run that again now. So running again with the 10%. Okay. Here we go. Just whizzing through the day there. Okay, so let's see what impact that's had. Okay, well, we can see that we've actually now brought down our problem again. So we're back now to the 30 minutes late. So we've actually just sort of fixed that back to how it was before. So I think the business is going to be quite happy with that. So we're really proposing that we just need one additional person within that one area of the business. Now, let's just have a look at congestion. We've still got some congestion. So again, it may be that we need to review our slotting strategy. Again, that's a subject of a different webinar, but that's obviously an area that maybe we can recommend that the business looks at. And we also know actually that there's not, the utilization is 74%. could probably move up a little bit higher, and maybe we've got some options to redeploy people on some of these other shifts which have got lighter work. So it's looking like we've got a means of accommodating our 10%. Let's assume for the basis of this exercise by adding 1 FTE, but we think with some further consultancy we could probably shave that down and remove that altogether. Might be worth, before we sort of close this, just to check to see whether this is going to work and what tolerance we actually have on this. So I'm going to just change that now to 12%. And just run that. Let's just see that whether that can be accommodated. Okay, right, now let's go back to the KPIs. Yeah, so we're still in within that band, so that's looking good. So let's just jump back out, come back into our what if was. Let's just tweak that up to 13%. Run it. Okay, very quickly whiz through that. There we go. Come back in, and our outbounds, and we've just obviously we just sort of collapsed here. Things are now running poorly. So we can probably safely say that we've got a little bit of tolerance on that demand for 10% growth. So let's go back to our presentation then, and let's present the results back to the business. So I think the nice thing here is we can demonstrate back to the board that we have taken a particular method in terms of solving this problem, and we've then looked at the inbound flows, the outbound flows, we've reviewed labour requirements, we've considered MHE, we've looked at the risks, and we've got some recommendations that we can now present. So if we come back to our matrix, in purple there you can see that we've started to now complete those other sections. So along strategy options, we've actually now got an option there that we can increase by 10%. We can also increase up to 12%, and we're suggesting that above that would require further investment. But at least we've got a little bit of an opportunity to grow that. So from a validation perspective, we're comfortable that that's good for 10% with an element of margin. In terms of our tactics, we've now modeled the business. From an infrastructure perspective, we didn't need to add any more racking, didn't need to extend the warehouse at all, so that's good. We are, however, we're needing 220 vehicles, so we do need to add some more vehicles to our fleet. And we can see that on validation that we're maintaining this 30-minute delay in terms of delivering to warehouse 2. So we might want to give some consideration in terms of what windows we're using there. Maybe we want to delay or spread out some of those deliveries to cut that time down. But I think we're pretty good. Operationally then, we can see again that we've validated that within the model. We've got some congestion that we probably want to consider, but again, that's not getting in the way with our performance. So in terms of our options, we've added 1 new head. We're going to review improving, perhaps rebalancing some of the people in MHEs across some shifts, and as we've just spoken about, perhaps look at putting in a slotting strategy. So I think that's quite a nice summary that we can present back to the board. We can support that with some of our data. We can look at the inbound and outbound flows, and we've got 3 columns there. So the as was, the 10%, and then the 10% plus 1 FTE, and we can see that our schedules are running on time. And then coming back down to labour and MHE, we can see that we're slightly increasing our cost of a week's operation from 26,208 up to 26,698. So not bad for a 10% increase in throughput, I would think. MHE is going to be staying the same. So pretty good. We could also look back and actually show that in some of the charts. We didn't have time to have a look at some of the charting within the application, but we can see that we can start to look at different profiles, and if required, we could spend more time looking at some of these different metrics within the business. So any questions at that point? I would like to think that we've shown today that computer simulation has a very valuable part to play in validating your warehouse strategy. And I think we can also say that having actually built that model once, as we have done, it's something that we can revisit continually in terms of driving continuous improvement within that business. So I think very good. And I think, of course, reminding ourselves of some of the disasters we saw, and a rather famous notice that was pinned up in a store that's shown to the right here. Hopefully we can prevent some costly business errors. Good. Well, I don't know if we've got any questions. We'll see what questions have come in and compile those now and see if we can answer some of those for you. Before we close, I would like to invite anybody that's interested. We are offering, for people who have attended this webinar, a 5-day trial of the software, which will enable you to perhaps build your warehouse or have a look at sort of a sample warehouse, and then at the end of the 5 days, talk to one of our consultants who maybe can help you answer some of the questions that may have arisen through that analysis. Anyway, good. Thank you very much for attending, and we hope that's been of use, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you.
That was great. That was really good.
I think we took a little bit of time to get comfortable, I think.
Okay.
I don't know how much time was that? Was that about 30 minutes?
I got 30 minutes on. I timed it. I got 30 minutes.
30 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Around about 30, about 32. But
32. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, did you want me to run through that again?
If you would like to, I mean, I thought the first recording was really good. You can record it again if you like. So we got.
Is this something that maybe I could do myself, and then so we've got some other material that we can compare it to?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I actually thought it was nice and smooth. You took your time.
Did you? Okay. I just thought there was a couple of areas, and there was one that I was stuttering a bit. Maybe you can edit those a little bit.
Yeah, there's a bit at the beginning where you kind of pause, but we can edit that out. But overall,
okay.
We can kind of transition that nicely. So.
All right. Okay. Okay. Good. So I don't know how we're going to manage the questions being polled. Dawn, are you there? I don't know whether you're able to.
So, I mean, I can put one poll in right now, so you can see how it looks.
Yeah, that would be good, I think, to see how that's looking, and then Carol can see how those questions are your. Okay, useless. Okay.
I am now, yeah.
So,
yeah, I think it would be good. I guess will we not have the polling questions in the recording?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So it would be good for Simon just to see how they're going to work, because obviously be running through the presentation. I know things like that could throw you, and it was really good, by the way, Simon. Max listened in for a little while as well. I thought that you've got a very good voice for it. Yeah, just a little bit at the beginning where you were just getting your rhythm going, but I think you can edit the ums and ahs out. Noticed as well was when you were talking about the other webinars, or at the end the offer and things, it would be really good to put a closing slide in there with a call to action.
Yes.
So maybe with the inquiries out, or we could get Gary, who's listening, to give us a particular email address if people are interested. I don't know how the offer is going to work, how they'll ask us for that offer. also as post, especially if we're offering that
I think,
offer with the recording, we'll need to make sure they have a way of getting in touch with us. I think if we could add a slide to the recording, Ketlan, then that would be a really good opportunity for us.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things which we had spoken about is whether people could have, whether we could have asked that as a question they could have polled, or I don't know whether is there a way of them sort of hitting a button and saying yes, we'll take it now, or we just point them to our website.
You can put it onto your website if you want, or you can actually. To be honest, I have to speak to Steve on that one. I'm not sure what the strategy is.
Okay.
Could you also ask Steve? I think Steve might have put it on Basecamp, but as you're aware, Kathleen, we get about 30 Basecamp emails a day each.
Yeah.
So finding half of them is a bit of a task.
Okay.
So if he could maybe just email us what his suggestion on the polling question should be. I know he did do that last week, but I don't think any of us have actually agreed to what they should be yet. So that'd be really helpful if we could do that.
Yeah, let me just, definitely.
No, I mean, I'm in the office the next 2 days with Simon anyway, so at least I can sit down with him face to face and go through anything.
Okay. Do you know the polling questions themselves? What slides are we actually launching them? Which bits are?
Well, that's it. I don't think we know.
Okay.
No, I mean, there's. I suppose there was 2 polling questions that I had. Really, was the one where when we've got this question, where the basically they've just been given the target 10% at the beginning. I would have liked to have got people's reaction to that. What do you do next? And so I had got some questions. I didn't really want to read them through.
Okay.
But we had some questions which I could send. So, have you got a good feel for your supply chain capacity and would be okay with that? No further action needed. Are you using a spreadsheet? Do you have a spreadsheet that you'd use to drop that to? Maybe are you using computer modelling? Maybe something funny. Would you start to look for a new job or something? At the end of it.
You might
Okay.
come up with
Have you thought about?
Unless we can get 3 copies for each department.
So and then I think
or like a magazine table upstairs.
During the webinar, when I talk about the slotting strategy, I'd quite like just to ask people, is slotting strategy something that you'd be interested in, just to get just a sort of a sounding back.
Okay. I'm finding it difficult to kind of hear you, Simon. A lot of background noise.
There's quite a lot of background noise. I don't know whether it's at Dawn's side or your side. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
It is.
Okay. All right, good. Well, anything else you want to do today? All I would say was, would it be okay if we do also record the first one that we deliver, just in case that is the best one?
Yeah. I would suggest if you record every webinar that you take, so you can actually compare which one you.
Yeah.
And then,
exactly.
Because at the end of the day, is the email that's going out with the webinars recording, I'm guessing. So you want a perfect webinar.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So what we'll do then is after we leave, I'll send the recording over to our studio manager. He will edit out everything he thinks needs editing. There's not a lot of editing to be done, and then we'll shoot it across to you to review.
Okay.
Okay. Would you like to see how one of the polls look?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. So here's the first one. So there's a section that on my the control panel which says polls, and you can actually launch any poll. It up to you, depending on the slide or depending on the question or where you're up to. You can actually just select any post that you've created. So here's the first one. Can you see that?
Oh, right. Oh, yes. So it's just a little pop-up. So what happens then? You just click on it, do you?
Yeah. So the attendees will click on which ones. Because we're presenters and organisers, we can't take the poll. It's just the attendees.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that'll just come up and they'll click on it and answer it. Okay.
Yeah. And then once they've clicked that, I close the poll, and then I can actually share the results.
Okay.
As no one's taken it, I can't really share it. And then if you move on into the other slides, and then I can select another poll. So I can just launch the
Right.
poll.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, so that'll be one. And then I just close the poll again. And if anyone takes it, I can show the results. And it's simple as that.
Right. And how do the results look then? Can you display those?
I
You
let me
didn't enter any information though.
yeah, but that's how it looks.
Have you got an example one at all from one of the ones that you guys have done?
What we've done with ours is we've edited the polls out from the videos,
Right.
but I can try and find one and show you how it looks.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send it
Well, maybe
across.
we could. I mean, maybe we could. Maybe on Monday, if we've got time, on the next call that we've got with Steve, just look at that. Do you think?
Yeah, definitely.
I think, Simon, maybe on the call on Monday, if we could ID the polling questions and where they'll fit,
Yeah.
I actually think it might be worthwhile just running through your presentation,
Yeah.
not necessarily verbatim, but
No, I
just
know.
running through it again. So then Steve will know where he needs to bring the polling questions in,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you know where to expect
To
them, so it
expect
doesn't
them,
throw
yeah.
you during the
Yeah.
live version.
Yeah. Yeah.
And possibly if we want to get Mags and me to dial in as participants as opposed to organisers
Okay.
or panelists, then we can take the poll
Mm.
and then you can see how it look. That might be a good idea because we haven't done a practice run with the polls.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that sounds actually beneficial. I think that would work best.
Could you feed that back to him
Yes.
for us?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So do you have a call set up on Monday, or is it something that we need
We
to?
usually do. No, I think we usually do. It's in the morning. Oh no, not on Monday. Yeah, no, we'll have to have one set up, and I think that would be beneficial. Like,
Okay. I'll talk to Steve on that. I think it's definitely
are you
something.
fairly open on Monday, Simon?
Yeah. Yeah.
We've
I've got.
11 o'clock.
Let me have a look. Just closed everything down, so let me just have a look. Yeah.